Have you ever wondered what it would be like to wake up as a completely different person? Not just metaphorically, but literally. Different body, different face, different life entirely. What if I told you that sometimes the most dangerous situations lead to the most unexpected gifts? What if protecting your life meant becoming someone you never imagined you could be? I'm Matt. I'm 28, and a few months ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was and where my life was heading. I was wrong about everything. I used to work as an accountant for what I thought was a legitimate consulting firm. The pay was excellent, the work seemed straightforward, and for 3 years, everything appeared completely normal. I processed invoices, managed accounts, and filed quarterly reports just like any other corporate accountant. But then I started noticing irregularities. Small things at first, payments to shell companies, unusual cash transfers, receipts that didn't match the services described. My detail-oriented nature wouldn't let me ignore these discrepancies. I started digging deeper, cross-referencing databases, following money trails. What I uncovered made my stomach turn. The company I had been working for was a front for organized crime, money laundering, racketeering, drug trafficking, and I had been unknowingly helping them clean millions in dirty money. I spent weeks documenting everything: bank records, email communications, financial statements. When I finally had enough evidence to build a solid case, I contacted the FBI. That decision changed my life in ways I never could have imagined. The federal agents were ecstatic about my evidence. They said it would be instrumental in dismantling one of the largest criminal networks on the West Coast. But they also delivered sobering news about my future. "Mr. Lawrence," Agent Daniels said during our first meeting, "these people don't just terminate employees who betray them, they eliminate them permanently." Within hours, I was in protective custody while authorities developed a protection plan, but traditional witness relocation wouldn't be sufficient. This criminal organization had resources, international connections, and a reputation for tracking down informants no matter where they hid. That's when Agent Daniels presented me with an option that sounded like science fiction. "She have access to experimental technology," she explained carefully. "It's classified, only used in the most extreme circumstances. Instead of changing your identity, we can change your entire physical existence." I thought she was speaking metaphorically until she showed me the classified documentation. Consciousness transfer protocols, the ability to move a person's complete mental essence, memories, personality, awareness, into a different physical body. The technology was real, tested, and had a high success rate in emergency applications. The process requires a donor body, someone who has suffered fatal brain trauma but whose body remains medically viable. We maintain a network of medical facilities that monitor for potential matches. The concept was overwhelming, but as she detailed the alternatives, constant relocation, perpetual fear, likely assassination within months, this impossible solution began to seem like my only real chance at survival. "We've identified a potential candidate." She opened a confidential file. "20-year-old woman, died yesterday from sudden brain hemorrhage. Her body is being maintained on life support, and the brain damage makes consciousness transfer feasible. We need an immediate decision." I stared at the photograph in the file. A stunning young woman with dark hair and expressive eyes. Her name was Tamika Anderson. She'd been a college student studying creative writing with everything to live for. "You're saying I would become her?" Your consciousness, memories, and personality would be implanted into her body. To everyone who knew her, Tamika would have miraculously survived her medical crisis. Meanwhile, your original body would be discovered by the criminals, apparently dead from natural causes. They'd have no reason to continue hunting you. The room felt like it was spinning. This was beyond anything I'd ever conceived possible. What about her family? Her friends? We have established protocols. Medical amnesia frequently accompanies severe brain injuries. No one would question memory gaps or personality shifts. Our psychological team would provide comprehensive background materials to help you navigate her social relationships.
I had less than an hour to make the most consequential decision of my existence. Remain in my own body and spend whatever time I had left in constant terror, or leap into the unknown as someone completely different. I chose to survive. The procedure itself remains mostly a blur. I remember being wheeled into an operating theater filled with equipment I couldn't identify, surrounded by medical professionals speaking in terminology I didn't understand. Agent Daniels held my hand before the anesthesia took effect. "When you wake up," she said, "everything will be different, but your core self will remain intact." The next thing I knew, I was regaining consciousness in a recovery room, and absolutely nothing felt familiar. My body felt smaller, more delicate. My hair was falling across my face in long, unfamiliar strands. When I attempted to speak, the voice that emerged was higher, softer, completely foreign to my ears. Agent Daniels was sitting beside my bed, monitoring my condition carefully. "How are you feeling, Mr. Lawrence?" "Disoriented," I managed to say, still startled by the sound of my own voice. "Everything feels completely wrong." "That's expected. Your brain is adapting to new neural pathways, different physical proportions, altered hormonal chemistry. The adjustment period varies, but the discomfort will subside." A nurse approached with a handheld mirror. "Are you prepared to see your reflection?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I was ready for anything. The face looking back at me belonged to Tamika. Defined cheekbones, full lips, bright eyes framed by thick lashes. It was objectively beautiful, but it was completely alien to me. I touched my cheek, watching the reflection mirror my movements. "This is really me now?" I asked, unable to look away from the mirror. "This is your new reality," Agent Daniels confirmed. "I want to express our gratitude again for your cooperation with our investigation. We've ensured your new circumstances are as favorable as possible." "But I'm so young," I said, still staring at my reflection. "Yes, you are. When Tamika's case became available, she had died from a brain hemorrhage, we immediately recognized her as an ideal candidate for your protection. Her body became available at precisely the right moment because time was critical. But I'm a woman now. Couldn't you have found a male donor?" We were operating under severe time constraints. While we successfully arrested most of the criminal organization's leadership thanks to your evidence, several operatives remained at large. We were confident they would locate and eliminate you quickly. We had to act immediately. Our medical team repaired the damage to Tamika's brain, while our technicians transferred your consciousness into her body. Your original body will be discovered soon, which should convince everyone that you're dead. I examined my reflection for several more moments. The reality of what had occurred was beginning to register. When you review the documentation we've prepared, you'll see that your new life offers many advantages. You're younger, you'll be attending college, you have a loving family and close friendships. Will the transition be easy? Probably not, but Tamika represented the best possible situation we could secure for you. Agent Daniels spent the next hour explaining the logistics. Tamika had studied literature at a local university. Her parents were successful professionals who could afford to give her time to recover from her medical trauma. She had close friends, particularly a best friend named Rachel, who visited regularly.
The cover story was straightforward. Tamika had suffered the brain hemorrhage, been unconscious for several days, and was now recovering with some memory impairment. Her parents would collect her from the hospital the following day, believing their daughter had miraculously survived.
That night, alone in the hospital room, I examined my new body more thoroughly. I was wearing a standard hospital gown, but I could see how dramatically different my physical form had become. My arms were slender, my hands smaller and more graceful. I had breasts pressing against the fabric of the gown, hips that curved in ways I wasn't accustomed to. I stood up slowly and walked to the bathroom. My movement pattern was different. My center of gravity had shifted, and I found myself naturally swaying slightly as I walked. Every aspect of physical motion felt foreign. In the bathroom mirror, I studied my face more closely. Tamika had been genuinely gorgeous. Her features were symmetrical, her skin flawless and smooth. But looking at this face, I felt no connection to it. It was like wearing an incredibly sophisticated mask. I lifted the hospital gown and observed my new body completely for the first time. I had full, round breasts, a narrow waist, curved hips, and the long, toned legs. Between my legs, where I'd once had something, was now nothing. The sight was jarring and surreal. This was my body now. These female parts, they belonged to me. The thought was overwhelming. I turned on the shower and stepped under the hot water. The sensation was completely different from any shower I'd ever experienced. The water flowed down my body. My skin seemed more sensitive, more responsive to everything. I washed my long hair. When I washed my body, I felt a strange mixture of fascination and disconnection. After the shower, I looked at myself in the steamed mirror. Tamika's reflection looked back at me, water droplets clinging to her skin, her hair wet and dark around her shoulders. I was beginning to accept that this reflection belonged to me now. The next morning, Tamika's parents arrived at the hospital. They were in their early 50s, professionally dressed, and obviously affluent. Her mother immediately began crying upon seeing me. "Oh, sweetheart, we were terrified we might lose you," she said, embracing me tightly. Her father was more reserved, but equally emotional. "The doctors mentioned you might have some memory difficulties. Don't worry about anything. We'll help you remember whatever you need to know." They drove me to what was now my home, an impressive house in an upscale suburban neighborhood. My room was on the second floor, decorated in soft colors with photographs of Tamika and her friends covering one wall. There were stuffed animals on the bed, textbooks on the desk, clothes filling a large walk-in closet. "We understand this must be confusing," my mother said. I was having to think of her as my mother now. "The doctors explained that memory loss is normal after what you experienced. We'll take everything slowly." She handed me a leather-bound journal. "This is your diary. Perhaps reading it will help some memories return." After they left me alone to rest, I opened the diary and began reading about Tamika's life. She'd been a creative writing major at a local university, close with her family, had a best friend named Rachel who visited frequently. She'd dated a few guys, but nothing serious recently. Her entries revealed someone who was thoughtful, artistic, and generally content with her life. There were also documents from the agency hidden in a jewelry box, more detailed background information, photographs with names and relationships, even transcripts of conversations I might need to reference. I spent the rest of the day studying this information, trying to memorize the details of a life that was now supposedly mine.
That evening, I had to get dressed for dinner with my parents. I opened Tamika's closet and stared at the contents. Dresses, skirts, blouses, all in feminine cuts and colors. There were drawers full of bras, panties, stockings, all delicate and lacy. I'd never worn women's clothing before, and the thought of putting it on felt strange and intimidating. But this was my life now. I had to learn. I started with the basics. The panties felt tiny and delicate compared to the boxer briefs I was used to. They fit snugly around my hips and between my legs, the fabric soft against my skin. The bra was more complicated. It took me several attempts to figure out the clasps, and when I finally got it on, I was constantly aware of it containing and supporting my breasts. I chose a simple sweater and jeans, trying to pick the most normal, casual outfit I could find. But even these basic clothes fit differently than anything I had ever worn. The jeans hugged my hips and butt. The sweater stretched across my breasts. Looking in the mirror, I saw a pretty young woman in casual clothes. It was still jarring, but I was beginning to get used to the reflection. Over the next few weeks, I settled into life as Tamika. My parents were patient with my supposed memory loss, helping me navigate social situations and family dynamics. I learned that Tamika had been planning to return to college the next semester, but had decided to take some time off to recover from her medical situation. This gave me months at home to adjust to my new life. My parents both worked demanding jobs and traveled frequently, leaving me alone in the house for extended periods. I developed a routine. Every morning, I would wake up, shower, and then stand naked in front of my bedroom mirror, looking at my reflection. At first, it was shocking and alien. But gradually, day by day, I began to recognize the face and body as mine. The shower became a daily treat. Hot water running over my body, washing my long hair, soaping my smooth legs and hips. I learned how my new body responded to touch, how different sensations traveled through this female form. After showering, I would open my closet and choose what to wear. This became its own ritual. At first, I gravitated toward the most masculine clothes I could find. Simple jeans, plain t-shirts, basic undergarments. But as the days passed, I found myself becoming more adventurous. I started trying on different styles of bras, some with padding that made my breasts look fuller, others with lace that felt delicate against my skin. I tried on panties that flowed when I moved, skirts that showed off my legs, blouses that accentuated my waist. Each outfit made me feel different, more feminine, more confident, more attractive. There was a full-length mirror in my walk-in closet, and I would spend time each morning modeling different combinations of clothes, learning how to move in heels, how to sit in a skirt, how to carry myself in this new body. One morning, about a month into my new life, I was trying on lingerie, a matching set of black lace bra and panties. The material was sheer and delicate, and looking at myself in the mirror, I felt genuinely beautiful for the first time. The sensation was intoxicating. I ran my hands over the lace, feeling the texture against my skin. I posed in front of the mirror, admiring how the lingerie accentuated my body. Without really thinking about it, I laid down on my bed, still wearing the lingerie. My hands began touching my body. I won't describe what happened next, but let's say, yes, it's what you think happened.
Afterward, I lay breathing on my bed, my body covered in sweat. I felt a mix of amazement and satisfaction. This body was capable of incredible things. As the weeks went on, I became completely comfortable being Tamika. I stopped thinking of it as wearing a disguise. This was simply who I was now. I moved naturally in feminine clothes, felt at home in my own skin, and even began to enjoy the way men looked at me when I went out.
About a few months into my new life, my supposed best friend, Rachel, came to visit during her break from university. She was a gorgeous blonde with a bubbly personality and an infectious laugh. "I've missed you so much," she said, hugging me tightly when she arrived. "I was so scared when I heard about your brain hemorrhage." We spent the afternoon catching up, with me carefully navigating the conversation using information from Tamika's diary and the agency files. Rachel filled me in on university gossip, mutual friends, and professors I supposedly knew but couldn't remember. What I hadn't expected was how attractive I would find her. As a male, I'd always been drawn to women, and apparently that hadn't changed. Rachel was beautiful, funny, and engaging, and I found myself genuinely enjoying her company in ways that went beyond friendship. She stayed for dinner with my family, and afterward, we went up to my room to hang out like we apparently used to do. We were sitting on my bed, laughing about some story she was telling, when she suddenly got quiet. "Tamika, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "You seem different since the accident. Not bad different, just, I don't know, more confident maybe, more sure of yourself." I wasn't sure how to respond to that, so I just smiled. She continued, "I like it. You seem more comfortable in your own skin." There was something in the way she was looking at me that made my pulse quicken, an intensity I hadn't noticed before. "Rachel," I said softly. She leaned closer to me on the bed. "I know this might sound weird, but I've always wondered what it would be like to kiss you." My heart was racing. "Really?" Instead of answering, she leaned in and pressed her lips to mine. The kiss was soft and sweet at first, but it quickly deepened. Her tongue found mine, and I felt heat spreading through my body. My hands found her hair, pulling her closer. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that for so long," she whispered. "Me too," I said, and realized it was true. Maybe not as Tamika, but definitely as myself in this moment. We kissed again, more passionately this time. Her hands roamed over my body, and I found myself responding in ways I never had before. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "Yes," I said without hesitation. We spent the next hour, well, doing some, catching up. Yeah, that's what I will call it. Catching up. Afterward, we lay together in my bed, satisfied. "That was amazing," she whispered, tracing patterns on my skin. "Yeah, it was. I hope this doesn't change things between us." I looked into her eyes and smiled. "It changes everything between us, in the best possible way." She stayed for the rest of the week, and we were catching up every day. By the time she had to leave for school, we had become lovers in every sense of the word. We talked about when I will go back to school, what my plans are, how we will announce us. The night before she left, we lay in bed after hours of catching up. "I love you, Tamika," she said softly. "I love you too," I replied, and meant it completely. After she was gone, I reflected on how dramatically my life had changed. Few months ago, I had been Matt Lawrence, a male accountant living a quiet, predictable life.
Now, I was Tamika Anderson, a young woman in love with her best friend. The Witness Protection Program had given me more than just safety. It had given me a completely new identity, a new body, and now a relationship I never could have imagined. I looked at myself in the mirror that night, wearing a silk nightgown Rachel had given me. I saw a beautiful young woman who was confident, happy, and in love. The face looking back at me was no longer foreign. It was mine. Sometimes I wondered what my old life would have been like if I hadn't stumbled across those financial irregularities. But I couldn't bring myself to regret the path that had led me here. I had a new life, a new love, and a future full of possibilities I never could have dreamed of. The next morning, I called Rachel at school. "I've been thinking," I said when she answered. "About what?" "About us, about my future. I've decided I want to apply to go back to university next semester. I want to be close to you." "Really? That would be amazing." "I'm going to major in accounting. It turns out I have a natural aptitude for it." She laughed. "That's so random, but if that's what makes you happy, I support you completely." We talked for another hour about our plans, our dreams, our future together. When I hung up, I felt more optimistic about life than I had in years. I walked to my mirror and looked at my reflection one more time. Tamika Anderson smiled back at me, and I smiled in return. "Hello, beautiful," I said to myself. "Ready for whatever comes next?"